more about positioning yourself for the new coming governance and all that, but
playoff.
Yeah, the playoff. Well, and here's the thing about the playoff is that there's enough people like Mac Brown, Dabo Swinney don't like 12 teams.
I'm with them.
You don't like it?
I'm against 12 teams. I guess that's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down.
But like they're like I'm all for 12 teams. I think 4 has become stale. I think 4 became stale in about year 3. I think that especially if it's only 4, you have no chance to give and I get it. If it's 12, Alabama, Clemson, right now, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma are the best 4 teams. Mm-hmm. They're probably going to win most of those games. But right now, you're not even giving them a chance to lose before they get to the championship games.
I think you are. Games. I think
they're
baked in the regular season. I think so.
I'm tired of hearing that argument. I'm tired of hearing it.
Why? Why did you agree with it?
Because, JD, if it mattered, if the regular season was a thing,
right.
If that was a whole thing, then we wouldn't see these 4 same teams over and over and over again if there was more of a trap for them. The thing is, they know the teams. A trap is a team you don't know, you don't see all the time, mm-hmm. you have no history with, and oh crap, Boise State came to play today. Oklahoma found that out.
Sure.
That to me is much more intriguing than let's watch Georgia and Clemson play again. And I know they're leading off the season. It's a great game, but
awesome.
But they at least have the opportunity, like the NCAA tournament. Part of the reason we tune in is we know Duke's going to win most of the time.
Totally.
But there's a chance. There's a chance that somebody could beat them. With the way the college football playoff is set up is you have protection. If you're certain schools, you have protection built into you because of your perception. Alabama gets a mulligan every year.
Sort of. I mean, if they were a 2-loss Alabama team, they're out. There's been no 2-loss team that gets in. So in that way, if you want to go ahead and stretch it to 12, there's a multitude of 2-loss teams that were in the 12 game.
Well, I mean, The other thing is
at that point,
sometimes
the season matters less.
Sometimes 2-loss teams at the end of the year are better than some of the 1-loss teams that are in it.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I think it doesn't devalue the regular season. It also makes what it devalues is that loss at the beginning of the year when your quarterback was out at the beginning, that you had 1 loss in a non-conference game and you lost a tight conference game and you're out at 2 losses. But the last 5 games of the year, you're tearing everybody up, but you're not in the playoff.
Those felt the playoff games to me. The tight ones that you lost in the middle of the year to whoever, those to me, I know we probably just won't agree on this, and that's okay.
No, look, if it was 16 teams, I'd be fine with it. I'm bored with 4. I'm tired of being the same 4. It's set up and it's ridiculous and elitist, and I just don't think I don't think it does any. I think it's hurting college football right now.
Wow, okay.
And look, after COVID, they had to find a way to make more money for the money they lost. The college football playoff last year was the most boring thing in the world.
My last question for you would be this: do you think the wrong team has won the national championship in previous years with the playoff model? Has the wrong team won?
No. Look, the best team's always going to. My point is, the best team's always going to win most of the time, or the better team's going to be there. You have much more chance for much more intriguing things to happen if you expand it out a little bit, to 12.
I think,
so no, I don't think the wrong teams won. I mean, the teams happen. The team you might get had the maybe sometimes had the matchups been flipped.
Sure,
but
be better games.
Bit a better game just because of how it would have been. But, no, I don't think that. I think that you give a better chance with 12 teams of just changing up the same 4 over and over and over again because you do give them at least one more chance to lose. Now, most of the time they're going to win that game. That's fine. I want to see them play one more game. Give me another game. That's fine. I'm asking for more games. I don't think, and here's the thing. If it's, say, the 12th team one year, which would probably only happen once, but the 12th seed, whether it's a group of 5 team or, a lesser known Power 5 team, say Baylor got in as the 12th team.
Yeah.
They're the 12th team. They played really well towards the end of the year. They didn't win the conference, but they were right up there. They're 10-2 or 11-2, and they're in the playoff. And you know what? But right at the end of the year, they're playing really good football, and they get that right matchup at the right time, and they win 3 games and win the national championship. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. We can't even, the thought of that even happening doesn't even happen now.
If you run the table in the Big 12, you're in. You run the table in the Big 12, you have a shot.
Well,
get in.
Let's stop giving it this one arbitrary thing that you have to do. There should be more, I think, again, I don't want to see 3-loss teams in it all that often.
Yeah, and that'll happen with 16. That'll happen with 16.
That'll happen with 16.
That's going to start happening.
Happen with 16. It might happen a couple times with 12.
I think you do the SEC schedule with the alignment that'll happen.
But again, and the SEC growing, they're going to have 2-loss teams in it anyway now.
Yeah,
because of the way they're growing. They're going to have
2-loss teams. If they keep it at 4.
Not if they keep it at 4, but they're not going to keep it at 4. Like they can't tell us they're going to expand the playoff and then not do it.
I understand that they're going to expand it. I just hate the fact that it's going to be about everything else that's not having to do with the champion. You know what I mean? Because you're going to make Alabama play 4 more games.
Here's the other thing, JD, that you're not even accounting. This is not just about there's the 5th and 6th teams every year are not in this thing, not necessarily based on merit. It's just based on a bunch of people around a table say.
Sure.
Okay? And conference championship games mean less, because if you've already determined that Alabama's going no matter what happens, you're going to put Alabama in.
Unless they have 1 loss. And then Alabama has a playoff game right there against Georgia in the SEC title game.
Yeah. But look, you still they've already determined certain things. Also, this whole playoff committee thing is a bullcrap farce. It's a bullcrap farce that we have to listen to for 12 weeks a year about this team was this and this will look this in video and It's a beauty contest, and the only one that matters is the last damn week. Sure. So again, they've just fed us all this bullcrap down the line, and then people go, well, those are the 4 best teams because these are what these people told me. Well, this allows it to be determined on the field far much more than that. And it means that conference title will mean something. Top 6 ranked conference champions get a bye. It means something. The other thing is it doesn't determine the SEC has 2 better teams than the Big 12 does, so we might be able to put the team that's not in the conference championship game at all in the playoff. Again, Alabama and LSU, which is the one that kind of spurned this thing on, again, let's actually punish them for losses and reward them for wins. Sometimes you don't get punished for losses.
Definitely.
Georgia didn't get punished for losses when they were in it, when they lost. And your team outside the SEC championship game doesn't get in because they lost the one time. It's just nonsense. That's why I think it needs to change. I all these things that are arbitrary, get rid of anything that's arbitrary and settle it on the field as much as you can. Now, look, they're going to pick 6 at-large teams after those 6 conference champions. Mm-hmm. But we don't have to hear about that crap until the end of the season when it matters.
Sure.
Because doing this thing in week 7, there's 5, 6 more games left. There's so many other things that can happen. You're just doing a television show to jerk us all off. It's ridiculous. It's not, that's why I'm so sick of it all. And then so give me the playoff that has more chances of people to get in. I'm going to watch it. I've got 2 weeks of sitting around watching the Independence Bowl anyway. Why would I not rather watch, an actual playoff game? And I don't think it's going to, the elite teams in the country club are going to win it anyway. They're going to win it most of the time anyway. They might have to play 1 extra game. That's all you're asking these people to do.
If you push it to 16 or 12, it'd be 2 more games, potentially.
Well, 12, they're already playing 2 games, right? At 4, if you win the title game. So you're asking them to play 1 or 2 more games. Mm-hmm. If you're one of the top teams, you're only going to play 2 more games, not 3.
Right.
Now, if you're the 12th team and you make it all the way, you're going to play 3 extra games, but you want to. So, to me, I don't think it's that much. So,
it's going to be interesting. The whole alliance thing, I think, is going to throw a wrench in everything. And if it does stretch to 12, which obviously it will, it's just going to become the SEC Invitational. Those 6 at large, you'll have at least 3 or 4 every year. That'll be, SEC teams. And so that's, I think, the unfortunate matter is we're not really solving the problem of, seeing a different field of teams. Maybe you see more teams, but when it gets down to 4, it's going to be relatively the same cast of characters. You have Bama, Ohio State, Clemson, and then someone else will crash the party. And that's the way it's been recently, too. You have 3 teams that are pretty stable, and then 1 team that shows up that nobody thought of.
Yeah. I don't think that, 3 teams at one, I don't know.
And it's cyclical.
Well, yeah, but it's not, JD, the playoff is not cyclical.
It absolutely
is. It's the same 4 a-holes all the time.
Absolutely.
It's Clemson, Ohio State, and Alabama.
Clemson is a new player to the game. Clemsoning was a thing in the last 10 years. They just now became a blue blood.
But right now, it's always been them. Clemson's been in every playoff. Alabama's been in every playoff.
Definitely.
Ohio State's been in most of them.
And the thing's 7 years old. So, once we get to 10 years, then it's okay, I bet Bama and Clemson. What happens when Nick Saban leaves Alabama? Then what happens? Then we're okay, well, there's probably a new player in the SEC. When Dabo leaves Clemson,
so what you're telling me is I have to wait decades at a time.
Maybe decades is strong. I think college football tells us it's going to change.
A decade, it does, but it's I would have to wait a decade.
Or you got to beat them. You got to beat them. We can do that. I mean, let's. I mean, if you don't like Bama, let's beat Bama. You know?
Okay. But, like, why not give somebody else a chance to beat Bama? Like, what have they done not to earn it in your mind, other than being beneath the surface of the Power Five?
They being just other teams that aren't Bama.
Other teams that aren't Bama and Clemson.
Bama hasn't made the playoff every year.
Yeah, I guess they missed it. They've missed it once. But, like, Clemson's made the playoffs every single year. So,
yeah. And, I mean, that's just the ACC, too. And, I mean, if Clemson loses to Georgia, I think they're going to have a really hard time getting to the playoff. I think that's
if Clemson loses to Georgia, they'll still be in the playoff if they win all the rest of the games.
We'll see.
They're Clemson.
We'll see. I don't know. I think it's going to be, I mean, if there's an undefeated champion, I think there's just a lot of things. And that opens it up a lot. Like, I love the fact that you have non-conference games like that. Like, that's a playoff game to me. Clemson, Georgia, week 1. All right, let's roll. If Ohio State loses to Oregon, they got to run the table.
Yeah, but again, like, you're just saying, like, you're giving all these, like, I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous, and it's made college football much more boring.
Really? Well,
I mean, like, again, like the same year in January, I'm going to watch the same couple of games, just like maybe instead of Oklahoma playing Clemson the first week, or they'll play Alabama, and you know, like, it just
sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah,
it makes 2 games to me a little more boring, but the regular season becomes substantially less boring, or substantially more boring if it's like, okay, we got Georgia and Florida. This is a great game, but they both have one loss. They both get in at the end of the year. We have 12 teams in the playoff.
Not necessarily. I mean, like, but no, I don't see. I think that, like, that is an argument. See, your argument is what the elite teams tell us, so that they don't have to let anybody else in. The regular season matters. The regular season will always matter. It will always matter. It's one of those things that they've sold over and over and over again to be like, oh, this will hurt the regular season. It will hurt the regular season. Does it hurt the regular season in basketball? No, it does not.
Because they play like a million games. You play 11 in college football.
You play 12 games, maybe 13 if you're in the conference title game.
Depending,
like, yeah. So, like, you're talking about 13 games. Like, the regular season will still matter, and maybe even matter that much more, because if you take an early, you know, if you got an early pock mark, you can fight your way out of it.
But how does more margin for error make it matter more? Like, if you can lose 2 games, it's like, all right, well, we can lose to Florida, we can lose to A&M, and
I don't think it matters more. I don't think it'll ever make it matter less. It'll matter the same. Yeah, I think that's one of those things. That's one of those BS things we've been fed. Like, hey, Texas is better than everywhere else. We can have our own power grid.
Right, but you can actually see that. You can see them play a number of games, and you're like, okay, well, they've lost 4 games. They're not better than everybody else. Yeah. You can see that.
Well, if you lose 4 games, you're not going to be in there. But, like, you lose 2. I mean, like, and not every 2-loss team is going to get in. The good 2, like the teams that lose 2, and they're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs most of the time anyway. But it'd be it would be much more entertaining for me to watch a 2-loss team like fight their way out of it and come back and win the thing.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I love seeing more playoff games. Like, that'll be a blast. As a viewer, I'm all about that. Yeah. As like when we make it more about like college football as a product, then I'm like, I don't know if I'm so on board with that.
Because I don't think it'll affect the regular season at all. All right, we're running late. We got to get to our next guest, which is Joey Kaufman from the Columbus Dispatch. He covers Ohio State, a team that's in the playoff most of the time. We'll talk about playoff expansion, this Big Ten alliance nonsense, and all that much more. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.